Welcome everyone to this unique virtual forum speaker event. I am Zachary Slicky, and I have the pleasure of serving as the membership manager with the Salem Chamber of Commerce. I wanted to begin by saying thank you so much to our partners at AmeriTitle for making today's important programming possible. Additionally, the visual and audio presentation that you're experiencing virtually today is made possible with the skilled work of our friends and partners at Allied Video Productions, led today by Salem Distinguished Service Award recipient Scott Hosner. It is fantastic to see this virtual room filled with so many business and community leaders from our region. COVID-19 continues to present considerable challenges to our nation, state, and city. Only by supporting each other and our fellow small business community will we maximize the best opportunity for us to achieve community health and see our local businesses have the most likely chances to survive these unique and challenging times. We would like to recognize the support the Salem Chamber of Commerce receives from our board of directors, led by President Kathy Gordon, and the many of our past presidents, our ambassadors group, and the elected officials who assist in strengthening our local economy and helping provide a strong platform for businesses to prosper. Now, if you would please join me in standing for the presentation of the Pledge of Allegiance and Invocation by Jackie Hogle, owner of Revival Clothiers.
Thank you, Zach. I'm so excited to join all of you this morning. And yes, please stand. Here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. I'm so honored to be able to lead us in a word of prayer this morning. So pray along with me according to your own beliefs this morning. Dear God, we come to you as business owners, brothers and sisters in the Salem community. We are anxious. We're a little bit weary after this year. We're worried. We're in unknown, uncharted territory. But we know that there is good in this world. We know that you will be faithful and just to us. So we ask humbly to give us calm and to give us peace as we move forward and make these plans. Give us a heart of gratitude for what we have. Give us grace for everybody going through something that we've never been through before. Give us wisdom and discernment as we try to make very difficult decisions in some cases. Please give us perspective, God, about those around us we can help, and a global perspective of how we can use our talents and our gifts and our resources best to serve our community. Please give us a heart of generosity to those who have less than us, and give us fortitude to keep going. Also, Lord, we ask you for a heart of unity. Bring us together and help us work together for the good of our community. And we just ask that you strengthen our faith, that we will all be okay, and that our community will come out of this stronger in the end. We thank you, and we just ask this all in your name. Amen.
Thank you so much, Jackie, for those beautiful words of encouragement and unity during these challenging times. At the Salem Chamber, we believe in helping businesses prosper so our entire community may thrive. We are so blessed with the tremendous support of many companies who believe in investing their resources and people into the causes that make Salem so strong. Eric Templeton serves as the Vice President and General Manager of AmeriTitle. In addition to serving on the Salem Chamber Board of Directors, you can see Eric's team of professionals involved in a variety of local philanthropic events, including the Boys and Girls Club Ironman Challenge, AmeriTitle Idol, and the Big LaBocce, Salem's premier bocce ball fundraising tournament. We welcome Eric to the podium to share words about AmeriTitle's community support and to introduce the two Spirit of Salem Award recipients. As a committed agent to reducing the spread of the coronavirus, the Salem Chamber supports the recommendations of cleaning and sanitizing. So I'm going to clean this podium real quick for Eric.
Thank you, Zach. As Zach mentioned, I'm Eric Templeton, and I'm representing AmeriTitle today, and we're very proud to be the sponsors of today's forum program. AmeriTitle is in the real estate settlement business. So if you're buying, selling, or refinancing a home, you're going to end up in a title company. Our pitch here today is that you choose AmeriTitle to close your transaction. I can say without hesitation that we do a great job, but I can also say that our competitors in town also do a great job. So I think you won't find a title or escrow professional in Salem that does not do a great job. So with that, we find that we have to differentiate ourselves in different ways in our industry. And so Zach mentioned a couple of events we do, but I would say that we concentrate on culture and community probably over everything else. We're all closing real estate transactions, but we like to make sure that we're a great place to work, that people want to work there, that customers want to be part of our team. And with regard to community, that we're just involved in and doing great things for the communities that we operate in. So those three events that Zach just mentioned there, over the course, well, we started AmeriTitle Idle in 2007, and we've raised over $200,000 for local nonprofits through those three events. So it's pretty exciting. So that's AmeriTitle in a nutshell, but let's bring it back to today's topic of emerging leadership. So you may or may not know, but I'm the oldest title company manager in all of the Willamette Valley, but it didn't used to be that way. So back in 2005, I moved here to Salem and started working for a man by the name of Mike DeRoche. So many of you probably remember Mike. He was at that time the past president of the chamber, and he was going to be in a couple of years Salem's first citizen. So he was a pretty special man. And when I got to town, Mike was adamant that I get involved immediately. He said, you got to get out in the community, you got to meet people and make those contacts, you know, and make a splash. And so I did that. And so I was very thankful to Mike that he provided me with those opportunities. And so I went out and joined things such as Salem Young Professionals back when I was eligible for that. And I think it was the inaugural year of that. And I want to say that Tom Hoffert was the chair that year, a young Tom Hoffert. So through organizations like that and hitting up all the events that I did, I think that I was able to make those connections and really establish the kind of leader that I wanted to be and how I wanted to move the direction of AmeriTitle. So it didn't take long to find out that Mike and I had two different styles completely, but he gave me enough rope to be able to do things my way and kind of create the culture that I wanted to. Made some mistakes along the way, but I'm appreciative of that. And this morning, as I was thinking about this, I remember throwing the 50th birthday party for Mike. We had a surprise party at AmeriTitle, and I started doing the math in my head. And I went back and looked and found a photo in the timestamp. And it turns out that I am the exact age today, give or take a couple of months, that Mike was when I came to Salem back in 2005. So that kind of hit me, and it put things into perspective with regard to today's presentation. And number one, it makes sense to me now why Mike would have wanted me to come here and send me out into the world, because he didn't want to do it anymore. So I get that. As time goes on, going home after work sounds a lot better than hitting an event every night. But number two, maybe it's time to replace me. So probably not today, not tomorrow, but soon. So I think that that's really what we older professionals need to be thinking about, is that next generation of leaders in our community and our companies. And I think I'm pretty excited to see what this panel of hotshots has to say today with regard to that. So on behalf of everyone at AmeriTitle, thank you for being here. And now I would like to present the Spirit of Salem Award. So there's a lot of words on this paper, so I'll try to look up every once in a while, but I want to make sure that I get it all. Today we have the opportunity to recognize the leaders and influencers who put Salem first and inspire other individuals to become champions within our city. The recipients of this unique monthly award have quietly led one of our community's most successful private-public ventures. If you have not had the opportunity to tour our Career Technical Education Center, better known as CTEC, it is truly a remarkable educational building. In partnership with Mountain West Investment Corporation and the Salem Kaiser School District, this effort has brought hundreds of local trades-focused businesses together to buoy a powerful hands-on education model for students who have passions for one of CTEC's 10 programming modules. CTEC graduates enter the workforce with firsthand experience as a framer, a video game programmer, a drone pilot, an esthetician, or an auto body repair technician. To make such profound impacts on young people, there must be committed leaders who facilitate such growth. Without the strategic leadership by CTEC principal Rhonda Rhodes and CTEC ambassador Mendez, our community would not be realizing the positive results of this innovative educational model. In fact, CTEC has become the recognized model in technical education studied by aspiring school districts across the nation. A bold and accomplished leader with the district, Principal Rhodes encourages her staff to pioneer new teaching methods based on hands-on training within specialized trades, needed in tomorrow's workforce. Rhodes is equipping students with the professional skills, technical skills, and academics they need to graduate with a competitive advantage. CTEC has 99.6% graduation rate and a 92% positive placement rate. This makes me think infection, but not today. 92% positive placement rate. A business liaison with the Mountain West investment team, Katia Mendez serves as an orchestrator of business resource support to CTEC and the Salem-Keizer School District. Mendez touts the robust industry involvement that has continually increased even during the global pandemic. Katia brings powerful industry influencers together on industry advisor committees who are tasked with providing guidance on curriculum and ways to ready students for career following graduation. Both Rhodes and Mendez are role models for their peers in the education community and the business community. The Salem Chamber is proud to salute Katia and Rhonda for their leadership and contributions to making Salem stronger tomorrow than we are today. Join me in recognizing and celebrating our Spirit of Salem recipients, Rhonda Rhodes and Katia Mendez.
Good afternoon, Salem community. I'm so honored to be here and to be chosen for the Spirit of Salem Award. It means a lot to me to be accepting this on behalf of Mountain West Investments, our local industry leaders, and our amazing business liaisons and partners at the Salem Chamber. It is so rewarding to have the privilege to work with our incredible community members, industry partners, and educators of Salem to provide this experience for our young adults. The work that we are doing at CTEC is invaluable to not only our students, but our local community who are counting on our younger generations to become strong leaders in our workforce. I'm so thankful to be part of such a truly special community and love to share the spirit of Salem through my role as the Mountain West ambassador to CTEC. The way that each of you have rallied around CTEC and our students is admirable and remarkable. Thank you for your dedication to our youth.
Thank you, Katia. And on behalf of the entire CTEC team, thank you so much for honoring the work that we do. We have an amazing and incredible group of instructional staff and support staff, and they are working so hard right now to keep students moving forward toward their goals during this really challenging time. And I have so much gratitude for our partnerships. You know, it started out that Mountain West planted the seeds of hope, but the Salem Chamber has been there since the very beginning to partner and to help us engage local industry and business leaders. And without that engagement, we wouldn't have the equipment that we have. We wouldn't have the expertise. We wouldn't have the connections and the networking to really fulfill our promise to our students of providing them with a competitive advantage. You know, in education, I have seen what happens when young people can't see a successful future for themselves. You know, whether it's addiction or depression or just floundering. And what CTEC can provide with our community support is the ability for students to learn skills that are real. They can learn things that give them the opportunity to make or create or build something that they can truly be proud of. They can base their self-esteem on their ability to add value to their community and to the marketplace. And that just gives them a light at the end of the tunnel and helps them see a future for themselves. And I appreciate so much this community rallying behind my team at CTEC and our youth. So thank you to the Salem Chamber for this award.
Thank you so much, Principal Rhodes and Mrs. Mendez, for all that you guys do for our future leaders here in the community. Absolutely special individuals. So with that, we're excited to kick off our Emerging Leaders panel discussion. Today's panel discussion will be hosted by the very talented Jacob Espinoza, owner of the New Leadership Workshop. You may have seen Jacob hosting Salem's TEDx Talks. He's hyper-present on social media platforms, sharing information on how to better engage your workforce, and likely you have seen his innovative podcast programming and topics. Jacob, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Zachary. And we're talking about, young professional preparing future leaders. It's hard to really overstate the amazing work CTEC is doing. So huge kudos to you, the members of the staff, for the amazing award. And I am so excited to be with this amazing group of people. My name is Jacob Espinoza. I'm a leadership consultant for T-Mobile, host of the New Leader Workshop podcast. And you at home, my ask is light up the chat. You hear something that you love, hit an out here, we out here with the exclamation mark. Type, I love that, let's go. Whatever is your lingo, but let's bring some excitement to the chat room. Right now, I'm gonna give each of our panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves and their role in the community. And let's start with you, Conrad.
Conrad Venti here with Venti's Cafe and Basil and Board here in Salem. I have a family of my wife and 4 kids, and we just love the Salem community. So we are happy to be here, and thanks for hosting this conversation, Jacob.
Welcome all. I'm Amar Sidhu. I'm with the Sidhu Group. I work alongside Lal and Don Sidhu, and this is just where we kind of expand our portfolio in C-stores, gas stations. And so it's great to be here. Big thanks to Amerititle and being here with a great group of people and future leaders. And thank you.
And I'm Lily Kay. I've been a residential real estate broker in the Salem area for 7 years. My husband and my dog Scooter and I both live in Salem, and we're just so excited to be in this community. So thank you to Amerititle and the Chamber of Commerce for this great event.
My name is Wally Barr with Wally Barr Consulting. I am just a dad to a 9-year-old. That's my favorite responsibility in this world. And personally, I just love enjoying the community. I frequent restaurants and try to support local businesses as much as possible. So thank you to Amerititle for sponsoring this event, and thank you to the Chamber for the invitation.
I'm Kimmy Neal, owner of Built Vibrant. We're a social media marketing company based right here in downtown Salem. I am also a mom to 2 amazing girls and my husband, Chad, and we have a French bulldog named Lila. So they are who I show up for and why I do this work, as well as being able to support our local community. I love it, and I'm excited to have a conversation with all of you today.
My name is Mike White, venture catalyst with the Oregon Entrepreneurs Network. Work closely with the City of Salem, SBDC, SEDCOR to help entrepreneurs in building this local entrepreneurial ecosystem. I also own Best Damn Barbecue Sauce, another startup venture as well in the tech industry. My wife and I, for 9 years, moved to Salem 7 years ago. What's up, babe? Love you. I know you're watching. That's a little bit about me, and it's great to be here with all of you guys.
Way to make the rest of us look bad, like shutting out your wife, and I'm like, I should have done that, missed that. But Jennifer, I do love you as well. I guess we'll all get the chance to shout out our wives as we go on throughout this hour. But Wally, I want to kick it over to you. Something I've always admired and appreciated about you is your ability to have perspective, even in very challenging times. And I know I've heard some of your story and your background. So first, I'd love to hear, you share kind of a vision for today. Why are we here together? And then why do you lean on the value and vision statement so often in your talks?
Okay, it's a great question. So I didn't mention one of the things I do is I'm a speaker and a trainer. This is what I do, a lot of keynote speaking, a lot of training around the country for businesses and education systems. When I think about vision, I think, there's always kind of 3 components. There's who you are, just as a person, as an individual, or as a business. Who you are, what is it that you want to do? What are you intending to accomplish? And then I think importantly, why? Why do you want to do it? And because leadership to me can be pretty complicated. I've always heard somebody say, you can declare yourself a leader, but if no one's following you, then you're just taking a walk in the park. And so fortunately, I didn't call anybody and say, hey, I'm a leader, I need to be on this thing today. I think we can all agree we were invited to do this. So somebody sees something in us, and it constitutes some capacity or some leadership, and then here we are, right? When I think about it, I think, well, how does that translate to everyone else? What does that look like? Because I've been on both ends of leadership. I've been, there was a time in my life, and I'll be a little vulnerable real quick, because I'm human, and I never apologize for that. There was a time when I was with my son's mom. We were married, and it was the wonderful part about that season was, publicly, it was, oh, Wally, I remember going to events, and it sounds like bragging, but when I get to the point, you'll realize it's a pretty sad story. I remember going to all these public events, getting recognized for this, and I know a lot of people have. And there was all this public perception of Wally's a really great leader. But if you would have asked my son's mom at the time if I was being a leader at home, the answer would have been no. And she would have probably broke down into tears. So leadership to me, when I think it's a concept, it's an idea that evolves, but without some sort of intention of what it is that you're trying to do, and for all the people, and why you want to do it. And I think that it's kind of a lost cause. You know, through the years, I've realized that leadership for me now starts at home. If my son doesn't look at me with those eyes sometimes, that he looks at me and says, "Man, this guy loves me," now I'm probably not doing it the right way. You know, so for me, it starts at home. Then from there, I look at, okay, so I have a son. So what do I want to do? I want my son, I want to give an impression to my son that I want him to feel a part of something. Anytime I've ever done damage back in my old ways and my old days in my community, it was because I didn't feel a part of it. I didn't feel like it mattered to me, so there was nothing wrong. When I see people spray painting walls or breaking windows, I always think that first. They probably don't feel like this place belongs to them.
So powerful, man.
You know?
Yeah.
And so what I'm hoping that we consider today in our conversation is being intentional about what it means. Like, what is it? Who are we? What is it that we want to do, and why? Because Salem is worth it. 100%. And we have everyone here from different entities. We have people in real estate, business, my favorite food representation, restaurants, right? Barbecue sauce, social media. I mean, so we're a reflection of the way that the world is moving forward. But everything evolves. Technology evolves, cars, computers, everything. But if you live in the same world that I live in, you'll notice human evolvement is not happening. Every year there's more and more people who are committing suicide, depressed, suffering from addiction, broken relationships, broken homes, homelessness. I mean, just on and on and on. So the entity that's responsible for the growth of all these things is humans, and we're being left behind. And so it's time to be more intentional about conversations of who we are, what we want to do, and why.
I love that.
It's about people.
And something you said that I want to dig in on a little bit is Salem is worth it, right? I feel like that's something that I'd love for young professionals to really think about as you're planning your life, you're planning your week. What am I doing for the community? And Lily, I know that you're just really passionate about community involvement. Where does that come from? And for young professionals that maybe are wondering how to start getting involved in the community, what are some steps they can be taking?
Yeah, that's a great question. So 7 years ago, when I began my real estate career here in Salem, I was invited to go to a family building blocks luncheon. Miss those days, right? We could all sit and have lunch together and listen to a little spiel about a nonprofit. Well, I didn't know what to expect. Went to the luncheon and I was just so astonished. You know, 850 people fill a room to hear the good news, really, of what a local nonprofit is doing within our community, one that really focuses on keeping children safe and families together. And I don't even know if we got done with the luncheon, and I just looked over to the left of me, and I had a friend sitting there. Her name was Danae Johnson, and first time I had met her, and I said, I want to get involved. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. And, you know, before the luncheon even ended, I had signed up to be a volunteer, and the calls just started coming from family building blocks on what they needed help with. And, you know, I was working full time. I was just starting out my career, and I decided that I was going to spend a big portion of my personal time volunteering for this local nonprofit, which meant so much to me. You know, I grew up in Northeast Salem, and my parents immigrated here from Ukraine. It was a communist country, and so growing up, I had always seen my mom and dad work so hard, but yet they always put others before they put themselves. And I grew up thinking, dang, you know, how do two immigrants who came here with nothing do such a thing? You know, they're great people. They have an amazing heart. They had a great journey, but you know, when I started talking to them and having this conversation, it was all about making the world a better place and giving back. And they're in a foreign country and they're working full time. They're, you know, both taking classes at Shemeketa to learn English, and they still had time to give back, whether that was a homeless person on the side of the street or somebody who came into their shop asking for help. They always focused on that person. And that inspired me as a child. My mom worked for Margaret Furlong before she opened up a European deli, so I grew up downtown Salem on State Street, which is ironic because that's where my office is right now. So I'd walk up and down State Street, and I saw the problems that we had, you know, back in the early 90s, and that we were filled with homeless people. We had a huge meth problem. And what do you think happened since the 90s? What helped that problem? I mean, we still have that issue here, but the local nonprofits came in and they focused in on the homeless people. They focused in on the drug issues. They focused on mental health. They focused on just confidence. You know, they helped these people get back what they needed to get back. And yes, we still have those issues, and we're in a global pandemic right now, and you know, I'm seeing more and more of it, but it just gets back to me, it just gives me that motivation. Like Kimmy's wearing a shirt that says, make your mark. Yes. And I think that's what the 7 of us want to do, is we want to make our mark, and we want to make our mark here before we start making our mark elsewhere. So hopefully that answers your question.
No, that's beautiful. I love it. And I love the, maybe we'll transfer it to Conrad for the second piece of that, but for people that are interested, they kind of have a servant's heart, or they're realizing they can be doing more in their community, what are some places they can get started?
Yeah, I think the first thing, as Lillian mentioned, is finding something that you're driven and excited about. Because if you're not bought into something, as Wally was saying, and you can't find a way to relate, to make it personal, you're not going to have that drive. But in a similar vein to Lillian, Family Building Blocks was kind of that pivotal point for me, where in a young, you know, I went to Western Oregon Business School, worked at US Bank in college, and I got to meet a lot of business owners. And so networking became something that was it became evident to me that it had to happen in the business world. So I started making relationships and going to young pros in the early days, and getting involved with the chamber and getting involved with a networking group, you know, at the time. I then went into mortgage finance, and then later into commercial banking. And in all of that, networking was part of building your business. But when I was invited to be part of the Young Leaders Council at Family Building Blocks early on, after one of those early luncheons at the Dream Builder luncheons, they formed this council of young leaders, they said. And this, I'm probably, you know, the oldest of all of us here, so it was a while ago. But in that Young Leaders Council, it really started to click. Yeah, thanks. It really started to click when you found an organization that, you know, has a lot of volunteer needs, has a lot of fundraising needs, because as Lillian said, they're serving the community out of the grace of volunteers and donations from our own community. And Family Building Blocks also has some other programs that are federal and state funded that came later, but it started with the grassroots of Dick Withnell and, you know, all of these other leaders that said, I want to give back to our community. And so after networking for several years, which kind of helped build the business side of things, when I connected with Family Building Blocks and realized we could come together in a regular time and give back with intentionality into a part of our community that is, you know, displaced or, you know, divested. They don't have the investment from family. They don't have the investment from other business people in the community. They don't have, you know, their uncle who owns a business down the street and their mom who are all there supporting them. They are struggling with, whether it be with addiction, poverty, intergenerational abuse. And one of the things that clicked with me is early in my life. My mom moved here when I was 3 from California, and you know, she was working 2 jobs to try to make it for just her and I. And we had Salvation Army for food, and you know, throughout that whole time frame, I didn't know that was happening. She had the best attitude about it. And I think what resonated as I became older and she started explaining to me the reality of life, and she was working, you know, full time as a mom to support me and our family, it really became clear that we weren't very far away from being some of these families that didn't have that, you know, opportunity in our community. So I became very passionate. So I think the first thing to get involved is find something that really drives you. So find something that, you know, right now, if you look around, as Lillian said, there's so many opportunities to get involved, whether it's Family Building Blocks or Boys and Girls Club, whether it's Isaac's Place where they're working with teenagers. community action agency. We have a huge homelessness problem here. And, you know, with businesses in downtown Salem, we are very compassionate for the neighbors that don't have homes. And so I think we want to find ways to help them because, as Wally said, to be bought in and part of our community, it can't just be taking. So we own these businesses and we own restaurants where we want people to come in and we want to provide a great hospitality experience for them, great environment, great food, good vibes, whatever it is. But we also know that it's our responsibility to then give right back to the community. And that's, I think, the drive that has been resonated with my family, my uncle, my mom, my wife, and our kids.
That's beautiful. And yeah, the saying, the rising tide lifts all ships, right?
Absolutely.
And without the successful businesses that we have in this community, these nonprofits wouldn't exist. And there'd be all these people that aren't getting help. So it's awesome seeing people giving back, not only financially, but also with their time. A specific question, joining the board of directors on a nonprofit. What does that process look like, and what are commitments people can anticipate?
I mean, I think typically getting involved in volunteerism is the baseline. You know, it also takes some responsibility to also try to financially support those nonprofits. And then I think over time, my experience has been that it's more invitational. So as you've become involved and you are, you know, regularly committing to that nonprofit, typically those nonprofits have a board of directors that are responsible for decision making. And then those invitations come, and it is a time commitment. You know, you have meetings and committees, and you're also recruiting other volunteers, recruiting other financial donors. And so I think the best place to start is by regular commitment to a specific nonprofit that you're driven towards. And then over time, I think you'll find opportunities. If a board chair position opens up, then you can accept it then.
That's awesome. And Amar, I want to chat with you a little bit. We talked about relationship with Conrad, and we met for coffee recently, and I know this is something that you're super passionate about. And I admire your perspective. And I don't even want to say for your age, but just in general, I think it's rare to hear somebody that has really your perspective on seeing the big picture. But specifically with networking and relationships, I mean, why do you value it so much, and how do you approach it?
So with networking and relationships, I see this as a very big asset for an individual to have, is because when I go back and, you know, with helping each other and also with the homelessness, is that when I look back and I hear stories from my family and my father, right, and my uncle, they came here to America with under $200 and they built it up, and we can see that they helped someone helped them, and it was this, what I like to say is this world is hand to hand. If I reach my hand out to Lily and Lily grabs it, she helps me, that gives me more leverage to I can go out and I can go help out Conrad if it's ever needed, right? So coming back to the networking is building your relationship with the people that are around you. Creating a common ground where you know that if you ever need help with someone, that you know you can reach out to them. Not only with help, creating relationships as in friendships, business, you know, and just working together and creating an environment that other people will see and want to say, hey, I want to join this, right? How are you guys all well connected? How do you guys do this? And that's just creating yourself a group where attracts other people to come in and join you, right? And in that group, you work alongside great individuals like you guys, and just building an empire off that, and just helping other people, especially with the wildfires that just happened, and, you know, putting everybody together and helping them out. And it's not giving them homes, right, but helping them with sheltering them. And I saw Lily and Josh alongside Jordan Truitt's family, how they came together, and Jordan Truitt's family put up their warehouse and let the firefighters stay there, right? And that's a very big deal, right? And not only with that, with us at the hotel, we would see families coming in and they would be crying, right? We understand it's COVID, but what do they need is they need a hug. So we would come out, we would give them a hug and just comfort them, right? So it's just creating that, you know, that touch with them and helping them out wherever it is needed, right?
Oh, that's great. And we talked about leadership earlier, and if you're on your own, you're kind of just somebody on a walk. But I mean, Lily, you guys had just, the whole community was rallying behind your efforts. You guys were taking charge, and just the sacrifices you guys were making. I know you were busy. You guys didn't have your calendars clear for that week, planning on something crazy happening, right? But you made it happen, which was remarkable.
Right.
And,
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I do want to touch on that. You know, Amar, it's all about the human interaction, which is exactly what he just explained. And, you know, as we go in further tomorrow this year, just think about human interaction. You know, we all need it right now. I think we're all earning for it. And, you know, with the homeless people that we do see downtown, with the less fortunate, whether, you know, they lost a home or they're a fire relief victim, you know, one thing I've actually learned from my husband through his organization, Salem Leadership Foundation, is approach them, ask them their name, you know. When was the last time you asked a homeless person their name? I did that recently when I was at a walk on Minto Brown Park, and this guy looked at me 3 times. He's like, my name? I was like, yeah, what's your name? And he told me his name. He's like, no one's asked me my name in such a long time. And that I just started tearing up. And it's so true. I mean, now more than ever, especially when we're in a global pandemic, we need that personal touch. We need that human interaction. And so I just want to leave that with all of you guys. Just think about that when you're going on to your week. It's Monday, you know, try to say hi to somebody that you don't know and really get to know them. I know it's scary and it's uncomfortable, but getting out of your comfort zone is just so important right now. And when you do small things like that, you're changing somebody's life in the long run. So just had to add that.
Touching with that, Lily, we have a business on Broadway in Salem, Oregon. And on Broadway, and that's reaching in towards downtown, that's where the largest homelessness, you know, everything's happened right there. We have a group of homeless men, and all of them get together, they go on a stroll, you know, very nice people. And to be honest, that's my favorite store to go to, is just because of seeing how exciting they are, how happy they are. Even they don't have anything. They come from $1 to $1, right? And it's not that they just come in, purchase beers, cigarettes, and they're sticking to their lifestyle. I see them, they actually come in and they want to help them and they want to grow. So what can we do? We tell them, hey, if you guys want, come outside, you guys can blow the leaves, we'll give you guys this, right? And just before the pandemic started, someone broke into our store and they broke all the windows. These homeless guys, they got so upset that they barricaded the store outside for a whole week so no one could come and tear anything up. They protected it for us. And you know how, not just only being with business owners, business aside, it's so warming to your heart to see there's people outside like that want to help and that actually care, right? And one of those gentlemen actually just passed away a couple weeks ago. And it was very sad. We joined at the funeral, and it was just very, you know, very, very traumatizing.
Well, I think that's great that you guys were able to be there for them. And I do want to transition away from the topic of people struggling with homelessness. I think it's awesome that we're doing amazing things in the community. And Amar and Lily, you guys are really leading the charges in a lot of aspects. I would also say you guys are probably 2 of the best dressed people in Salem. I mean, you're sitting next to each other right now, so I'm not sure how often we get 2 of the best dressed people in Salem sitting next to each other on camera, but this is a special moment. But speaking of leadership, it's been a
response, just take it in.
Just smile, yeah, for sure.
Embrace it.
Yeah, nobody's ever said that about me. But we were talking about leadership a lot, and Kimmy, I love that part of our story is that you were the best boss I've ever had for a while. When we were, you know, both in corporate America, but you've kind of transitioned out of that and started your own business. So maybe share some insights. You know, what was that transition like? What inspired that desire as well?
Yeah, no, thank you. So I will say I went to college, and I went to Oregon State, and I moved into the dorms, and I moved out the first day that classes started. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know where to go.
The first day?
The first
day,
awesome.
Yeah,
I moved in, first day classes, I moved home. And I started my job at T-Mobile after that. And I was there for 13 years. And I'm so thankful for that, you know, part of my life. It taught me so many incredible things. I met so many amazing people, and it really, I think, kind of gave me this confidence and this skill set that when the time came that I was ready to move on and take the next step in my life, you know, I felt prepared and ready to do that. So I'm thankful for all of that. But at the end of my, corporate career, I was really at a crossroads. I wanted to spend more time with my family. I wanted to start working on something that was my own instead of working for somebody else and somebody else's dreams. And so I quit my job. And I didn't really have a plan and about what I was going to do or where I was going to go, but I knew that I had a skill set that was going to help me be successful in whatever I chose to do. So in leaving, I started taking real estate classes, and I was like, this is my jam, like I could do this. And then quickly realized all I really wanted to do was market myself to be a real estate agent. And in the, in kind of me leaving my corporate career, I also had done a little network marketing and was really successful. I took a trip to the Dominican Republic because of it. And I also like to take photos. My husband got me a nice camera. And so I started like piecing these things together and realized like I could really do social media as a job. And there really, at the time that I started my business 2.5 years ago, there weren't a ton of people just focusing on social media. So I felt, like there was a need in our community for somebody to take that responsibility on for business owners. It is stressful to know what to post on social media. It's, time consuming. And so I started my business and, in thinking about being a leader and wanting to start a business, what I would say is that you don't have to have it all figured out to get started. I definitely did not have it all figured out, but I knew that I had a skill that people could benefit from and I could learn and grow as I've gone, or as I, continued to grow. And I started with one client, and now my team has grown. I have 3 other women that work with me, and we manage about 30 small businesses accounts for social media, creating content, taking photos, and I literally have never been happier in my life. It's so awesome to wake up and know that I get to serve my community, to echo what you guys are saying, to be there for my community and to show up for other people in a way that helps them. So that's kind of a short version of how I got into this little biz.
I love it. If you did it again, what's something you'd do differently?
If I did it again, I would, wait, I'm going to think about this.
Put you on the spot. While you're thinking, I'll share a story that, I love about you, which is while you were still working in corporate America, you used to go by Kimmy until somebody told you, like, you shouldn't go by that because it doesn't sound professional.
Yeah, you're right.
And then you kind of went through a few years and you're like, screw that, like I'm Kimmy, like this is who I am, this is part of my brand, and you just kind of embrace that as part of you, which is something that I love.
Oh, you know what, thank you for that. Something that's really important to me is that you don't trade your authenticity for approval. And there will be moments in your life that will come up, and you have to be you. And I think that's what is one of the things that helps my business be so successful. I mean, if you go to my social media pages, I'm not there talking about buying my stuff all day long. I'm posting silly videos and I'm having fun because that's my personality. And I think, as any business, you have to be on social media. I mean, it's a thing, right? But, my advice is to show up as yourself. People want to know who you are, so show your face. They want to like who you are, so talk about things that you're passionate and excited about. And they want to trust you. So, share your advice. The more that you can give for free, the more that people will show up for you. And those are just some things that we value in my business.
I love it. If you're not following Kimmy on TikTok, you're missing out because it's hilarious. She kills it for sure.
Thanks.
But speaking of figuring things out, for businesses that need some funding to get started, Mike, this is kind of your lane. A lot of businesses, consulting, like myself, Wally, and Kim, like we can kind of find clients. We don't need a ton of startup money to get that started. But for businesses that aren't in that lane,
right?
What can entrepreneurs be doing to set themselves up for success, to show up well when they have a platform of potential investors?
Ready, set, go. Get some skin in the game, I would say.
Okay, what does that mean?
Basically, get your project off the ground, get a minimal viable product off the ground, into get it to your customers, get some revenue going, get some traction. So a little bit of the backdrop of what you're talking about is we just launched the Mid-Valley Angel Fund here in Salem that covers basically the Mid-Valley, Marion, Polk, Yamhill counties. We got a group of wealthier patrons that got together to raise $50,000 and make investments into 3 companies locally. So with all those applicants that applied, you know, a lot of them weren't ready for an equity investment because they didn't have, you know, customers lined up. You know, they were going based off, you know, an idea versus having something tangible that got into the marketplace. So to answer your question, it's just more of traction. You know, that's what angel investors really look for.
Okay.
And we have a really strong group of angel investors here in the Mid-Valley. You know, they really want to focus on local and foster growth. You know, entrepreneurs creating new economic energy, it's a huge plus for everyone. So yeah, did that answer your question?
It does, yes. You talk about having skin in the game, and now you're presenting it. What are some things that should be included in that presentation?
Man, so pitch deck. So, you know, basically your elevator pitch, you know, what you do, solving a problem solution, marketing strategy, you know, financials, you know, profit margin, are you profitable? You know, your whole roadmap to success and why should someone invest in you, right? How are you gonna, you know, what's your return on investment? So, I mean, that's kind of like the nuts and bolts of what you need to present and have ready.
I love that.
Yeah.
And Conrad, you know a little bit about finances as well. You did it for a while.
Yep.
Through that process, what did you learn about what banks are looking for people to be looking at?
I mean, I worked for Pioneer Trust Bank for about 7 years and managed a commercial loan portfolio, which included commercial real estate, but also some startups for non-commercial real estate business loans. And I think very similar to what Mike is saying, a lot of times though, people still are coming to the bank before they have that traction. Right. And so I think in our experience as a small community bank, in their experience when I was working at the bank, it was very important to understand the knowledge and experience that those people had lined up with what their dream or what their business was that they wanted to go into. So whether it was they had somebody that they were partnering with, or they had a plan that was already proven to purchase a business that was already proven, or if they're really truly starting it up, maybe it was somebody that, you know, worked at a coffee shop in Salem for 7 years, wrote their entire business plan, which is similar to a pitch deck, business plan showing that they really understood the ins and outs of that business. And I think that's what banks look for, is they really need to know that there's a plan, the A, B, and C plan. And then also, you know, that's from a community bank side. So community banks are a lot different in that they don't necessarily go to SBA financing, but SBA financing, on the other hand, is much more specific, much more industry specific. And so I think it just comes down again to understanding the experience, understanding the bank that you're going to look for financing from, whether it's someone like US Bank and you're going for SBA type financing, or a community bank like Pioneer Trust, where they're going to make those decisions more locally, based on maybe a different set of factors. So your experience and where is the business located. And
you say experience, what does that
experience mean? Do you know the business that you're going into? Okay. Do you know it well? Because if you come and you say, hey, I want to open up a coffee shop, but your whole life, you know, you just graduated from college, you've worked at,
I'm guessing you use this example for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It was somebody that we had worked with at the bank, and they had a lot of experience. They worked somewhere for 7 years before they went and started their business in the same industry. That experience proves to a bank that you oftentimes have a better chance of success because of the experience that you have there. So I think rather than coming in from a different industry saying, I want to start this company, and it's just a dream, as Mike said, it doesn't really show that there is that experience there.
That's beautiful, the idea between an idea or a dream and actually a plan that you have. Okay, that's great. And Wally, I want to open up the runway for you a little bit, because I love your work. It's such important work as well. Like your work. And something that you've talked about when we met recently over a couple of drinks was the passion around helping people become good people as opposed to good business leaders. And how are those two things separate?
Well, I always hang on to a quote that says, we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. Right? So whatever is happening in your human condition will always be how you reflect the world around you. You know, and so I hold that to my mindset when I look at things, right? When somebody's expressing anything or I have a perception of something, something's happening in their spirit. So that's where I really started the groundwork. And as I shared earlier, you know, for me, the work that I do is really interesting in the sense that, I mean, that sounded weird. What I do is really interesting. Trust me.
Your job.
It's the best work, and I'm the best
work.
COVID.
Yeah.
The journey of how it got there, and as I'm listening to everyone speak, I'm thinking how the journey of everything is so relevant. You know, and I think of me as a speaker. I mean, if you could go back and ask any of my middle school or high school teachers, like if I would have said then, like, I'm going to be a speaker one of these days, like I'm going to talk into a microphone and people are going to pay me for it. It's going to be awesome. Nobody would have believed that, right? I came from a culture where, for me, my voice didn't matter, you know. And I really think about when you were talking about the homeless person, when you asked them their name, you know, that really hit me deep, you know. So for me, I've been homeless. I've had my days, months actually, where I slept behind a Safeway in Woodburn. And just, you know, all you think about is food. I started to learn garbage routes of restaurants just so I could get to the garbage cans before they would get, you know, taken. I mean, that was like my old life. Like, I remember those days, but what I also remember is the power that came from being acknowledged. Just being acknowledged. And feeling, I needed acknowledgement and personal value more than I needed a sweater and socks and a meal. Because when I look at the process that it took from going from where I was to that actual pit, it wasn't because there was a decrease in wardrobe. You know, that ends up happening naturally, right? There was a decrease in human value. Just being able to look in the mirror and say, you matter, bro. And didn't have any, and when you don't understand, like I do this with my son. When I think about how I'm being a father to my son, I think of those things. It's hilarious. Now I have my son. He goes, years ago I had him I'd have him go when he's brushing his teeth, just say 10 positive things about himself. And he still does it to this day. He's 9, and it's hilarious because half the time, you know, I don't understand what he's saying, but he's just like, you're awesome. You're really nice.
Something about Fortnite,
you did something
probably.
nice for somebody yesterday. You know, like, and I love listening to that. But I do that, and he at this point may not know why, but I know I'm just trying to, again, there's that word intentional. I'm just trying to help him to really empower himself, because we live in a world where a lot of people are struggling. And I don't know about you guys, but when I'm like in a pit, it's very hard to crawl out of that pit and say, hey, how are you doing today? You look awesome. How was that trip? You know, like, it's very hard to show interest and be engaged in other people's lives when you've lost interest or engagement in your own. You know, and that spills out into how you parent. That spills out when I think about some of us have talked about the pandemic and stuff. Everyone has different views. Some people have this view, and it's not people that I want to surround myself with, but of this view of like, why is people sleeping all over the floor? You know, it's just there's that, which again is a reflection of what's happening in you. I think about how people's marriages are. I think about how are they communicating now that no one has a job. How are they talking to their kids? You know, so I think about those things, because hopefully I'm answering your question. In my human experience, it's been that spectrum. It's been that going from that place where my voice didn't matter to now I have a business that is specifically built around my voice, my thoughts, the books that I read, the way that I interact as a human being. You know, so to me that's the full spectrum. But then from there, that's the gift that I want to give to people. One of the gifts that somebody gave me once is I was fortunate to have a mentor in my life. And he met me at a time where I was coming off of the streets and didn't have a penny to my name, didn't have anything. He ended up taking me under his wing. Through that, I'll just give you the nutshell version. I ended up moving to New York to live with this family, went to school there to Syracuse. And what I look back on now that was really truly a gift was he treats me the same now as he did then, because he was never treating me according to who I was. He was always treating me according to who he believed I could be.
That's beautiful.
And I think that's important. Like as leaders, it's important as what we're trying to accomplish in this community is really creating those conversations. You know, like if you're young and you're listening to this, I can't tell you how many times I've gone and spoken at high schools around the country, and most kids don't know that it costs $100 and 30 minutes of your time to establish a business.
Yeah.
To just start a business. And like you said, it starts with an idea. It starts with just a thought in your mind, and it's powerful because you want to act on it. As I'm getting older in my days too, right? And there's another quote that says, everyone has two lives. There's the life you're living, and there's the life unlived. And when you're just in your life and you start feeling this dream, you start having this vision for yourself of this life that can be, it's like everyone is saying, sometimes you're never going to be certain. You just got to just do it.
That's great. And I feel like it's so easy to get caught into the trap of giving ourselves due dates.
Yeah.
Like by this age, I should have it figured out. By this age, I should have it figured out. Like I didn't even start trying to figure things out till I was 30. You know what I mean? I hit a point where I was like, okay, I need to do something because I don't want to do this job for the rest of my life. And then I thought about it, it's like, even if I only live 20 more years, like God willing, I live till I'm 50. Like that's a lot of time to make something happen. Like 20 years of being dedicated to a process, of getting better every single day. Like that's a lot of time. But I feel like sometimes we get caught in that trap, and I don't really know where it comes from. I wonder if it's like basketball and sports where like your career's kind of over when you're 30, you know what I mean? Like I don't know exactly where it comes from, but I think it's an important understanding that 35, 40, 45, however old you are, if you want to do something different with your life, like you probably have time. Like 5 years is probably enough to make something incredible happen. And you brought up mentors, which is just, I think, underutilized. I feel like mentors use so many, serve so many different purposes, and I'd love to maybe open it up to the group if somebody has a good mentor story of somebody that they feel really had a positive impact on their life.
Yeah, I think I've had a couple, maybe three strong mentorship relationships in my life. And, you know, I think it comes down to intentionality, as Wally has talked about a little bit. And what that is intentionality and knowing that and being open to that you don't have all the answers. You know, as a leader in your job maybe, or a leader in your family, when you become a dad, or a parent, you immediately become a leader, whether you want to or not. And intentionality is part of that. And then I think there's some humility that comes along with that responsibility of being a leader, and that you have to say, I don't know all the answers. And so for me, you know, I grew up, as I mentioned, with just my mom. And so my Uncle Dino, my Uncle Mike, were two close people that were always geographically very close to me. And they were always people that I went to talk to because my dad lived in Saipan, in an island in the Pacific. And, you know, that for me kind of established what that maybe meant more in my life as things went on, as I grew older. And then I became, you know, I graduated college. Dino and Mike were still very important people to my life. But then I started seeing people with their families and their businesses who, you know, were showing some interest in connecting with me. And then I, you know, intentionally said, hey, do you want to grab coffee like once a week or twice, you know, every other week or whatever? And Mike Scheel, who used to own Great Harvest in Salem, was probably one of those definite mentors for me. He had a family that I admired. You know, his wife was good friends with my wife, childhood friends, but the way he ran his business, the way that he gave back to the community were things that I aspired. And I use those moments and to connect and just ask questions and then just listen to people who are way more experienced than I am in life, but have something that I value in their characteristics and their attributes in their life are things that I value. And so I think for mentorships or really anywhere you want to grow in your life, you have to have a bit of humility to say, I don't know all the answers. And you have to force yourself sometimes to say that because you think you do. You have a plan, you have a business plan, you know, that you want to accomplish. But the reality is we don't know all the answers. And it's because we're human, you know. So it's human nature to think, I can do this. But it's also got to be part of your forced human nature, I think, to say, I don't have all the answers to get there. So
is it an ego thing, do you think, that I have all the answers, or is it just like
ego?
You don't know
Sure,
what you
yeah.
don't know?
I mean, I think anybody who wants to start a business, though, is going to say part of that. Yeah,
Okay.
I got this. But I think, I don't know what part of that comes into play for asking those questions of how do I get there. But having an open mind to know that you're going to be more successful if you're asking questions. And for me, that's what mentorship's really meant. Asking questions. How did you do this? Or how do you think, I might be able to do this? Are questions that constantly help you become a better person.
Awesome. Thank you.
I can add to that.
Mike.
Sorry, yeah, I mean, if you want to be successful, go and get yourself a mentor. I'm 36 years old, and I landed a big-time mentor last year from a barbecue sauce business. We know that leaders, they need to be able to show you the way and get through obstacles that you can't see because they've been there before. So I got linked up with a beverage company. She started this company from scratch, $100 million company, national brand. And I drove to Bend to meet her. And our first meeting to kind of vet the situation, she basically told me to shut up and that I was full of BS. And right there, I knew I had the best mentor ever because she could see through me as an entrepreneur, high-risk entrepreneur, and like where I wanted to go and where I needed to go.
Did you get it defensive at first?
No, I respect.
You came in with the mindset of,
but the thing is, though, I played, I played 3 sports, played college basketball. Like I'm the person that say, hey, Mike, get on the line and run lines until I tell you to stop. And so I respect that authority, especially coming from someone that knows the game, right? So when she told me to like buckle up, cowboy, like you are not doing anything that, like you're not gonna be successful unless you do X, Y, and Z. So I listened to her, and within 6 months of listening to her, I nearly almost have 2 employees, and we're getting national accounts, and we're doing things where I would have been kind of like slow to those things, right? I wanted to get there, I knew how to get there, but like I really didn't know how to get there, right? So getting a mentor, if you want to be successful faster, go get one.
I think one of the key terms that he said there is listening. Listening to whether it's a mentorship, your wife, listen to your wife, because she's always right.
Yep.
I love you,
Carrie. I love you that you're pointing at my virtual right.
Yeah, and but listening to your team, listening to your kids, listening to your wife, listening to your mentor, these are the things that help you become that better human that and evolve as a human. If you're not able to listen and hear people, it's not just listening, but it's also hearing. Something I learned. We've been married for 16 years. We've been running Basil and Board now for 2 years. But one of the things that came in the kitchen at Basil and Board is when you're calling out an order, and you need somebody on the bruschetta line to make a salad, and you call it, and then they respond with heard. So I picked that up at home. So Carrie will say something, and I say heard, and she's like, "That's the best thing you have ever said."
That is beautiful.
But I think listening and heard are being heard are what. You have to learn to do.
That's great. I want to touch on listening. I do want to pass it to Kim. I know you had a mentor story to share, but we'll talk about being vulnerable a little bit. So pretty much I listened all day. That's my job, is to listen. I had done a training this day on listening and how to be an active listener. Then at night, I'm talking to my wife, and she's like, "Jake, you don't listen." I'm like, "All right." So I'm stealing that heard line because it's gonna save my marriage.
I'm gonna pass that on.
Yes.
This is, just to riff off a little bit about what you're saying, when I was a new leader before I had started my business, I was afraid to reach out to people that were in my industry because I felt like, oh, they're going to think I'm competition or, so something that I think is really important is that we value community and collaboration over competition because you are the only person who can do your thing like you do. Like you can have 10 people that all do your thing, but there's something that makes you unique, your story, your vision, the way you execute your experience, so don't be afraid to reach out to people that, you look up to and admire and find yourself a mentor. Just sharing my...
And people are pretty open to it. I went golfing, and I was fortunate to be paired up with 2 former directors at Nike, and I asked them, like, who's the best leadership consultant you ever worked with? And they gave me a name. I reached out to her on LinkedIn, and we had a phone call like a week later. And so I got tons of best practices I never would have got, to your point, Mike, because she has been through so many years of experience. Like people are generally very open, and I feel like there's an appreciation of being asked, that somebody sees this much value in what I have to say. Do you want to chime in on that a little bit?
I just feel like they want to share it with you too. There's room for everyone to be successful. There's room for everyone here, and just sharing that when you do have a mentor, personally, my mentors were always my mom and my dad, just because, they're my biggest motivators too. I'm fortunate to still have them in my life, and they're both married to each other, which is awesome. So it's just, you know, they want me to ask them questions, because if I don't ask them a question, I just don't know, and they don't know that I want to know the answer to something. And I think that's just so important, is, you know, having a mentor and getting that personal touch with them and having them share their experiences with you.
And I love that you stated your parents want you to ask them questions.
They do, yeah.
Which I feel is great, and just great parenting advice, because we think of how busy we are throughout our days. We go home, it's really easy to, not right now, can be the answer, right?
Exactly. We're all so busy in our lives. You know, it's the last thing we want to do is, I think, talk more, really. But, you know, what you were saying, you have your son do those 10 positive affirmations, and when you said that, I was like, I don't even have 10 things I would say about myself. Like, what would I say? But I'm going to challenge myself to do that, you know, especially in the funk that we're all in right now.
Yeah. Beautiful. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on the power of affirmations, Wally?
Sure.
So where do I
talk about my son again? Do I talk about my son again? I always, if you follow me on social media, you know he's a big part of my life. And I love the part that Conrad mentioned about listening to your kids. You know, because kind of piggybacking on what I mentioned earlier, it's a very powerful thing for people to be valued. I mean, I work as a coach for adults, but most of the things that we converse about, or things that I'm listening about, is things that didn't happen in the last year. This is stuff from 4 or 5 years ago, you know, and I was trying to say earlier that because so many people are struggling and suffering according to things that are happening, sometimes the responsibility of affirming, you can't always rely on other people. I did that, and it didn't work very well. Just that, how come they don't call me, or that person hasn't, you know, commented on my, you know, it's just you can get caught up in that. But it's just like, man, when you understand the human condition, and the human condition is a lot of suffering, that's our connection. We don't connect as humans by fun or joy, or that's not what connects us. Those are things that you kind of you live out in your own personal life. How we're connected is through trauma and through suffering. We all have story, we all have experiences, and according to those experiences, and you know, I always say making, you know, chicken salad out of chicken poo, you know, and kind of growing your life. Sometimes I use a different word, but kind of growing out of that. That's really the power of that. But in terms of to answer your question about affirmations, I think that, like you said, if we're not being intentional about building this human being, right? That's what it is. The most powerful vehicle you possess is this one right here. And I always say that, use the example with people that, you know, when your check engine light comes on in your car, right? The first thing people do, whether you have $26 in your bank account or $89,000, when that check engine light comes on in your car, that car is responsible from taking you from one important place to the next. You will find a way, right? You take it to the car shop and you run a diagnostic, and the diagnostic tells you two things. It tells you what's wrong with the vehicle, but it also tells you what's right with the vehicle, right? What I've always been fascinated by now in this stage of life is most people know how to do a diagnostic on their vehicle, but when's the last time you ran a diagnostic on this right here? You know, most people don't know where to start. What is that? Where do I start? How do I know if I've just been running this thing on fumes for the last few weeks, or haven't changed the oil in years, you know? And when you're not talking to yourself positively, your brain is designed to look for problems. That's what the brain does. So it's constantly thinking negative. What's wrong? What should I, right? So if you're not being intentional about reversing the course, then you're just waking up on a daily basis with this constant battle of negativity, negative things, right? I watched a documentary that says they don't show bad news in Canada, but here, that's all they show, right? They've got, with intention again, at 6 o'clock, you want to hear the bad scoop on life? Tune in at 6. We're going to show you some store that was robbed in New Jersey that doesn't have any impact on you, but you need to know about it, right? And it's the chicken or the egg. Do they show bad news because we want bad news? Or is it that we want it, that's why they show it? I mean, I don't know, right? But I guess the point I'm trying to make is affirmations and feeling optimistic about yourself and feeling like you can do something meaningful, that's work. I mean, and it's a very individual thing. I was having breakfast with Kimmy's husband the other day, and he said something. We were talking about, he was bragging about you more than anything. And he says, I remember she wanted to start her business. She said, I want to start a business doing social media. And he was like, what the heck? Again, woman, you ain't doing that. He says, but then I look at her now and I'm like, wow, the destruction of the dream could have happened at home.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. And,
you know?
And you know, mentors are amazing, and you know, there's lots of avenues to help you get to that place, but you have to believe in yourself. My husband was like, baloney, you're not doing this, you know, and he, you know, that's your like right-hand person. And now, obviously, he talks about me more than I talk about me, which is probably a lot. And so you know, again, just from wanting to start a business and being a leader, just you do you, like show up for yourself. You don't have to have a cheerleader in your corner to show up for yourself. It's nice and they will come, but don't let not having a mentor or a cheerleader stop you from following your dreams.
Yes, I think the idea of not having regrets, right? You're going to regret something you didn't do potentially more than something that you did do. And of course there's, you know, cases where that's not true, but generally, right? By taking action, by really understanding what you as an individual contribute to the community. Like, what are your strengths? And bringing those to life, which I feel the affirmations are an incredible tool to use in that. But also recognizing the strengths of the people around you. There's a saying that the fish is the last one to know that it's in water. And I think sometimes the same is true with strengths, where because things come so naturally to us, we might believe it's easy for everybody. But that's not the case at all. Right, there's things that we do individually, whether it's being organized, that's a strength for some people. I don't have that strength, right? Getting things started, motivating others, being an influencer. There's lots of things that we can do, and if you could tap into our own strengths, we can appreciate the strengths of the people around us, which encourages them to do it more often. This entire community is going to be a better place. I could talk to each of you for an hour individually, easily. But we're running short on time, but I want to kind of open it up if anybody has any last thoughts that they've been holding on to.
I think just to build real quick on affirmations and what you were talking about in the positivity in yourself. I think right now, especially with something that Lillian hit on, is we're all struggling because there are headwinds coming at us left and right with COVID-19, the pandemic. But I think showing gratitude to those around us, to me, affirmations are almost like gratitude, you know, within your own self. So you're finding those things about yourself that you find positive and you're thankful for that. That's the gratitude. But I think as an internal optimist, I can think of things being easy all the time. But I think it's more important to right now show gratitude to those around you, to those on your team, to your spouse, to your kids, and to your team members, because it's a time where they need to hear thank you.
That's beautiful. Yeah. If you're on this call right now, send a text message of gratitude to 3 people. Let's say that. Think of the multiplying impact that's going to have in our community. If everybody watching this call right now takes a minute out of their day to send a text message, just letting somebody know why you appreciate them. Maybe it's reminding them of a story you have with them. Maybe it is a time that they helped you out, or just something they did that you appreciate. I mean, just take that moment. And Chamber of Commerce, this is an amazing event. I have some closing words to say, but first of all, thank you so much, you panelists. You guys were absolutely phenomenal. The value that you brought, I know I learned a ton out of it. I know everybody watching at home is going to learn a ton out of it as well. So we appreciate you. Also, thank you so much, Emerititle, Eric Templeton. I mean, you guys helped make this this day, and you guys do so much in the community to make Salem an amazing place. But also the Salem Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. Huge kudos to you guys for making this happen and bringing this to life for the young professionals in Salem. There's going to be another Forum Speaker Series next month. So next month, the Forum Speaker Series will feature an incredibly timely keynote by economist Joshua Lehner from Oregon Office of Economic Analysis. We will hear about the financial impacts of COVID-19 on our state's economy as we head into a new legislative session in January. This event occurs via Zoom on Monday, December 14th, 11:45 a.m. to 1 p.m. If you were inspired by today's panelists, I'm going to encourage you to reach out to the people that are here. We're all on social media. We all love being engaged with the community. We're open to ask questions. But also reach out to Zach Solicky from the Chamber of Commerce. He's doing an amazing job connecting the community to the Chamber, making sure that the business community's needs is what the Chamber is focused on. And he's also pretty good at golf as well. So if you see him out there, you might learn a few things on how to swing. I know he's taught me a few things. But thank you guys all so much for being part of this. This has been a ton of fun, and I appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your day.